Taoiseach, I want to raise the issue of apprentices being forced to pay college fees. These fees can range from €833 to €1,433 per year, depending on the particular apprenticeship and how much time is required in college. The Minister for Education insists on treating apprentices as students. They are not students. They cannot avail of student grants or other financial assistance available to students. They are full-time workers and very low-paid workers at that. An apprentice beginning their first year will be paid the minimum wage, and it doesn't rise much after that. They pay income tax, they pay universal social charge and PRSI. The apprentice of today is different than that of the past. Then they left school at 15 and 16. Apprenticeships by 21, 22. Many apprentices today are young adults with family responsibilities. 1,500 out of the 7,500 apprentices nationally are unemployed. They have been made redundant, and they may have to wait a number of years to gain employment and continue their apprenticeship. In 2004, there was an attempt to make apprentices pay college fees. It was defeated by mass protest and then threat of a legal challenge to the High Court. This government has reintroduced these fees in the October budget. The Electricians' Trade Union, the TWU and USI have launched a campaign to axe the tax on learning. They've quite correctly pointed out this makes a mockery of the promise to provide young people with a job, work experience, apprenticeship or training under the Youth Guarantee. Lastly, I want to make the point the Minister, Rory Quinn, I'm glad he's here today in the Dáil, has to date refused to even meet with the TWU or the USI. So I'm asking you, Taoiseach, and as a leader of the Labour Party, will you give an absolute commitment with Rory Quinn here to arrange such a meeting and address the concerns and difficulties faced by these young workers and find the resources to reinstate the payment of the college fees to these small groups of workers? It was with FOSS and it didn't transfer over to Solace.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I understand that the Minister for Education and Skills is planning to meet the Union of Students in Ireland about this issue, and he's making arrangements for a date for that meeting. My understanding of this issue is that there is a student registration fee which applies throughout the education system. What is applied in the case of apprentices is on a pro rata basis. I should add that, of course, the whole issue of apprenticeship is something that the government is looking at very closely. Minister Quinn has got a report from a review which was carried out by Mr Kevin Duffy, looking at the whole area of apprenticeship, because apprenticeships and the role of apprenticeships in the modern economy is part of what we need to do in order to get people back to work, in order to ensure that our economy fully recovers. I think it's fair to say that apprenticeships are used in a much wider way in other countries than they are in this country. We have tended to have an apprenticeship system for a fairly limited range of trades in this country. There's a much wider definition and a much wider concept of apprenticeship in other European countries, and I think there are a number of things that we can probably learn from that. I think in particular, we also need to ensure that employers are open to taking on apprentices, and I think this has to be part of the whole recovery story as we move forward. We have seen, and I think we saw this even in good times, a reluctance on the part of some employers to take on apprentices. There are two parts to the apprenticeship process. There is the on-the-job training and experience which the apprentice gets. There's also the formal education part, which is in a school or a college, and that I think is the issue that your question particularly relates to, and the student registration charge, or the proportion of the pro rata student registration charge which applies to that. And in respect of that issue, as I've said, the Minister for Education and Skills has indicated his willingness to meet USI about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taoiseach. You didn't really Taoiseach, you didn't answer my question. What I asked was an immediate meeting with the TWU and the USI. Now, up to date, we were talking to both yesterday afternoon, and they have had no indication there's going to be a meeting organised. So maybe